Part 16. Pirate's Bounty Don't Run Away. Author, The Desolate Little Purity. Chapter 153. On the vast sea, it is actually a very embarrassing thing for two people to meet. If you are lucky, you will be able to pass it by on this sea. If you are unlucky, even if you put in all your effort, you still cannot find the person you are looking for in the end. However, under certain prerequisites, sometimes the person you want to find can appear in front of you by yourself. Tonghu Town. A small town on the Great Route, Luogu's ship appeared in this town in the morning. It is worth mentioning that this small town does not have a naval branch. Therefore, the environment in the town is relatively mixed. When we first arrived at the port, we saw several pirate ships, but they were not as chaotic as Demon Valley Town. The bar in the town was in a mess at this time. Luogu sat in front of the bar and looked at the contents of the cup. After hesitating for a moment, he took a sip and nodded, "Not bad." The bartender heaved a sigh of relief, and glanced at the two pirates who had been tied up in the hall. Bobby Vincent, million. Rogers Quinn, million. Moreover, these two people belong to the same pirate group, one is the captain and the other is the vice captain. I originally wanted to rest here, but unexpectedly, I encountered Luogu. After some decent resistance, Rogu was suppressed by Dashiki and Makita before he could make a move. Such a result made Luogu's mood a lot better, and he was sincerely happy with the promotion of Dashiki and Makita. That's why I was interested in asking the bartender for a glass of wine. After tasting it, I felt better. "Captain, what about those guys who ran away?" Makita has obviously accepted the reality, even if the crew members object to the captain's decision, it is obviously meaningless. Especially the insidious captain himself, who can make you feel desperate in various ways. Since you can't resist, you can only go with the flow. And just now, after venting the violence on these two people, I feel a lot more refreshed mentally. Then run away. Luogu didn't seem to care about this. If they don't run away, I will be in trouble. He reached out and took out Bailey and put it on the table. He smiled and said to the bartender, "My name is Naris Ragu, have you heard of it?" The bartender's expression changed. He had obviously heard of this name, but he didn't dare to speak. "I am a pirate hunter, but now I am being hunted by the notorious Blackbeard." "Doesn't this situation make people feel very pitiful?" Luogu sighed, "but even so, after I drink, I will still pay." "Thank you." The bartender looked at Bailey on the table, thought about it for a long time, and didn't dare to take it. "Forget it." Luogu stood up. "Bring me 10 more barrels of the wine you just drank. Only alcohol can anesthetize your sad mood." Mishita and Dusky looked at each other. When did the captain become sad because of being hunted? On the contrary, he is obviously very happy. In the end, the bartender asked someone to bring out 10 barrels of wine, and finally watched Makita walking towards the pier with 10 barrels of wine on his shoulders. Dusky carried a pirate in one hand and walked easily. Only Luogu, with his hands behind his back, just like the kind of overseer that makes people gnash their teeth with hatred, followed behind with a step that disowned him. It wasn't until Luogu's departure was confirmed that the bartender wiped the cold sweat off his forehead. Returning to the bar, he took out a phone bug from under the bar and quickly dialed a number. The pirate hunter, Naris Ragu, is now in Copper Pot Town. The news that can be confirmed is that he is indeed being chased by Blackbeard Kill. In fact, Luogu didn't know that the bartender had other hidden identities. After all, it is impossible for everyone to have a double-sided life. The only thing he knows is that places like bars are often places where all kinds of information meet. After all the fuss here, the message will surely get out soon. And the next thing to do is also very simple. It doesn't matter who is waiting. It was Blackbeard who came, and there was a way to deal with Blackbeard. If it was another person, there would naturally be another way to deal with it. Therefore, After returning to the boat, Luogu leaned against the side of the boat and looked at the other side of the sea. I am looking forward to it. Who will be next? Well, I wonder if the sea god will jump out and ask me, is this what you are waiting for? Are they gold pirates, silver pirates, or iron pirates? Is the captain too stressed? Mikita asked Daski in a low voice. Look, he is saying strange things again. The captain says strange things every day, and I'm used to it. Daisuke threw the two pirates into the lower prison as if he was used to big scenes. At night, Luogu announced something, in the next few days, we will have a good rest in this town. A long sea voyage is a kind of torture for your body and mind. Take advantage of this time to recover and then start our new journey. Neither of the two girls suspected anything, and nodded their heads in agreement. But Dashki was still confused. She had promised to fight back, so why did she stop here? However, this woman who is good at self-strategy has quickly found the answer. This may be the tranquility before the war, recharging your energy and waiting for the final battle to begin. As for Mishita, as long as Luogu didn't say anything about going back to find Blackbeard, she would be enjoying herself secretly, and she could still care about so much. All in all, I may be able to live a clean life for a few days in the future. Mikita thought so at the moment. But unexpectedly, that night, the cleanliness was broken. In the middle of the night, a group of uninvited guests came to the ship. Their purpose of boarding the ship was very simple, to save people. If the rescue is successful, and if there is still energy left, I plan to kill the hunters on this ship for all the pirates. But it is a pity that the beautiful idea does not have enough strength to promote it. 10 minutes after they set foot on the ship, they were all tied up and hung from the sails. The night ended in turmoil, and then the next day. It was fine during the day, but at night, something went wrong. Sleeping well, the result was shelled. When they came to the deck, they saw a pirate ship, far away, firing at them. However, it was precisely because they were far away that they missed the ship, but the turbulent sea made the ship's body bump violently. The captain opposite stood on the side of the ship and laughed loudly, the one who killed the pirate hunter, Narasragu. Before he could finish his words, he saw a crescent-like blade cutting the sea, and even their boat was cut in half along the way. After finishing, Luogu yawned and returned to his room to sleep. Something will happen every day in the next few days. It seems that the pirates who have not been encountered on the Grand Line are all gathered together and appear in turn. You will sing and I will appear. In this way, after 7 days in a row, under the blue sky, on the horizon, a thin figure, shirtless, wearing a hat, and freckles all over his face, appeared in front of the big ship of the pirate hunter Shishiren. Pirate's Bounty Don't Run Away. Author, The Desolate Little Purity. Chapter 154. Early morning. Mikita, who was obviously tired, yawned and walked out of the room. The opposite room opened, and Dashiki also walked out with a tired face. The two looked at each other, then sighed together. Ever since the day they stopped at Copper Pot Town, I don't know what happened to these pirates. They had to come over every night to harass them, although every time they were killed or captured neatly. But people who come one after another come every night, and I don't know if these guys have been injected with chicken blood. Luogu had proposed to the captain more than once to leave Tonghu Town, but Luogu had not agreed. It was obvious that his captain was planning something that they didn't know about. They are almost used to it. The captain's heart was full of knots, twists, and turns, and ordinary people couldn't figure out what was going on in his mind at all. Cook and cook. Mishita walked out weakly, followed by Dashki. Train. Still training. Mishita rubbed her eyes and said, it's hard to rest at night. If I don't take the opportunity to rest during the day, I think I will die suddenly. Don't worry, the human body is not as weak as you think. Only by squeezing the body to the limit can we burst out with new vitality. Dashki tried hard to cheer up. I believe you, ghost, you are a very bad old man. Mikita didn't know where she learned the strange words. Dashki touched her face blankly. Am I very old? Also, my gender is wrong. The opposite sex is only for reproduction, the same sex is true love. Burn all heterosexuals, I am a great FFF group. Mikita responded in a nonchalant manner, not knowing that this inexplicable slogan gave her motivation, turned around and got into the kitchen. Suddenly there was crackling and the sound of pots and pans in the kitchen. Dashki was stunned for a moment, and then her eyes widened. It's amazing. It turns out that Mishita is not very dangerous to me. While he was worrying about his future, he suddenly heard a voice coming from under the boat. Pirate Hunter, is Naris Raghu at home? Dasaiki was a little surprised. When he came to the edge of threading, he saw a young man with a big grin and a face full of smiles. No matter how he looked at it, he didn't look like a bad person. Therefore, Dashki asked, who are you and why are you looking for our captain? I am his relative, and I came to see him for something, the young man said with a smile. Is he there? Oh, wait a minute. Dashki turned around and shouted loudly, Captain, your relatives are here to see you. What the hell is this line? Luogu walked out from the upper cabin with a dark face. In fact, when the man under the boat spoke, he already knew. It's just that Dasaiki's words sound weird no matter how they are heard. He said it himself, it's your relative, Dasaiki still insisted. I have never heard that there are relatives of my family on the Grand Line. Luogu came to Dashki's side, looked down, and recognized the identity of the young man in front of him with just one glance. He raised his eyebrows slightly and said, Fire Fist Ace. Dashki nodded. So your relative's name is Fire Fist, Fire Fist, Fire Fist Ace. She stretched her neck suddenly and looked out. You are the subordinate of Whitebeard, one of the 4 pirate emperors who has a bounty of million from Fire Fist Ace. You are the captain of the second team, and the infamous Blackbeard is actually yours. Era, it's clear. Ace was a little confused. To be honest, he was a little unclear about the identity of this woman, but he was a little uncomfortable when his identity was made clear by others. With a little step and a leap, he had already jumped to the side of the ship, squatted on the side of the ship and said with a smile, Hello everyone. Hello, hello. Luogu waved his hand. If you haven't eaten yet, let's have some together. Dashki's expression has become stiff. Captain, there are million pirates. Luogu nodded. Yes, we are rich. Is it really okay to say that in front of me? Ace is a little speechless. Is it okay if you say this behind your back? He turned over and jumped off the side of the ship, stood on the deck, and took a quick look. The environment is not bad. Then he looked at the pirate hunter on the sail and exclaimed for a moment, You are so flamboyant. You don't have to worry about any pirates not liking you, so you just come here to do justice for heaven. Why does the word Tianashengzingdao appear in the mouth of a pirate? Luogu rolled his eyes at him. Or, you are the one who plans to do justice for heaven. Of course not, Fire Fist Ace said with a smile. I came to you to cooperate with you. Cooperation. Luogu glanced at him and said with a smile, as a pirate, when did you have the courage to find a pirate hunter to cooperate with a mouse? It has become so bold. It's really the first time I've been compared to a mouse. Ace shook his head. However, I asked you to cooperate, and I didn't intend to ask for your consent. Luogu looked at him interestingly. Well, let's talk about how to cooperate. Let me hear how you can reach a consensus with me even if you don't agree. Ace smiled. You are being chased by Blackbeard, right? Everyone knows when this incident happened. Luogu frowned. And I am chasing Blackbeard, Ace said. I searched for him all over the world, and chased him from the New World to the Grand Line, but I was always a little bit short. But now I have decided not to chase him. You are looking for a new love? Luogu asked. Yes, I found you, Ace said with a smile. Since he is chasing you, As long as I find you and guard you, he will appear directly in front of me. Why should I search so hard? Don't you worry that after he finds out that you are with me, he will get angry and find someone else. Why do I feel like the two of us are not talking about the same thing at all? Ace picked his ears, suspecting that he might have heard something wrong. Luogu smiled slightly. So, you said that we don't need our consent. Does it mean that if we don't agree, you plan to use force to make us unable to resist? It is clear. Ace smiled and said, you are so smart. Okay, I agree. Luogu compromised in a second. However, I have to remind you that you must be careful when dealing with pirate hunters. After all, if you are not careful, you may become the reward in my pocket gold. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Pirate's Bounty, Don't Run Away. Author, The Desolate Little Purity. Chapter 155. Ah, so you agreed. Ace looked at Luogu a little confused, originally thinking that he would never agree so easily. After all, pirate hunters, there is absolutely an insurmountable gap between them, and it is impossible to change the mortal enemy positions between each other. As a result, this person actually agreed. Of course, why don't you agree? Luogu held out two fingers. I agree with your proposal for two reasons. First, I am not the kind of person who is nonviolent and non-cooperative. I have to be beaten up before I can be honest and obedient. Ace nodded. If everyone in this world were like you, there would be a lot less disputes. So what's the second point? As you said before, Blackbeard is chasing and killing me, and you are chasing and killing Blackbeard. An enemy's enemy may not be a friend, especially because of our two positions, and it is impossible to become friends. However, using the enemy to solve the problem, the other enemy should belong to the normal logical category. I can't refute you. Ace looked at Luogu in astonishment. In some ways, you are indeed shockingly smart. Luogu smiled. Let me take this as a compliment. But I think you have a third reason. Ace suddenly said, and the third reason is your real purpose. Well, Luogu spread his hands. Well, let's talk about it. Accept the proposal to cooperate with me, and then maybe you can take advantage of this opportunity to catch two big pirates in one go. As a pirate hunter, what could be more tempting than this? Ace had a smile all over his face. Luogu's smile remained unchanged. I've said everything, but it's meaningless. I actually got it right. Ace was surprised. And you admitted it so frankly. I've already told you that you must be careful when dealing with pirate hunters. After all, if you are not careful, you may become a bounty in my pocket. Luogu shrugged his shoulders. I've already reminded you of this. If you haven't thought of it yet, then I have to re-evaluate the IQ of Whitebeard's men. Horrible. Ace shook his head. A guy like you, once he goes to the New World, will be a nightmare for many pirates. I haven't gone yet, don't worry about putting a hat on me. Luogu said calmly. Then what are you going to do next? Well, let's admit that you now have the right to rule this ship. Then, give orders. If you don't obey, you will be beaten. As he spoke, he glanced at Daisuke. During the conversation between the two, Dashiki wanted to speak more than once. At the beginning, I wanted to strongly oppose it, but when I heard the end, I was dumbfounded. Who knew there were so many twists and turns? At this time, after receiving the captain's gaze, she suddenly understood one thing. Moored in Copperpot Town, after waiting for such a long time, enduring the harassment of pirates, Luogu's real purpose is not to rest here temporarily. His real purpose was to wait for the person in front of him, so that he can complete his sinister plan of driving the tiger to devour the wolf and reaping the benefits of the fisherman. Immediately decided to be honest, the captain may not be afraid of the pirates in front of him, it's just because his appetite is bigger. Now, the captain has decided to endure it before the big meal begins, and he has no reason to destroy the captain's plan. After Estang figured out Luogu's sinister intentions, he was speechless for a while. After listening to Luogu's words, he thought for a moment and said, "Then first find a quiet island and wait for Blackbeard's arrival. However, this process among them, I'd better not appear in too many people's sights." Understood. Luogu snapped his fingers. Dashki, get Ace's vehicle into the cabin. Mishita, cook later and come out to sail the boat. Something flew over. Luogu reached out to catch it. It was a pointer. There is an uninhabited island recorded here. We can go there directly, Ace said. In the fight with Blackbeard, try not to involve innocent people as much as possible. Your words make me think that you are not a pirate, but a navy. What do you think a pirate is like? Evil, obscene, insidious, something like that. While talking, Mishita walked out of the kitchen with excitement on her face. Are you finally leaving? Then I saw Ace and was stunned. Who is this? My relative. Luogu rolled his eyes and threw the pointer to her. Let's sail. Clear. Makita didn't cook any rice, and sailed directly. Luogu continued his unfinished words. Anyway, most of the pirates I saw are people like this. You still have too little contact, Ace said. If you see more, you will find that there are still many good people among pirates. Such words, you really should use it to comfort yourself. Luogu waved his hand. Except for me and my crew's room, you can use the other rooms as you like. In addition, although my two crew members are more beautiful, please don't attack them at night. I wouldn't do that kind of thing. Ace was furious. He simply looked down on pirates. Who did he think he was? The ship moved and gradually left the port. On the pier, some people who had been paying attention immediately sent messages to each other. Pirate hunter, Narasragu is gone. Pass the news and let them take action. Sunny and sunny. In fact, Luogu always felt that, as a great route, the sunny weather all day long is really a bit too much. The clear water, blue sky and cloudless sky are simply not in line with the painting style of the Great Route. After all, even in the East China Sea, it is rare to see such good weather. Captain, there are more. Mishita fell from mid-air. There are already 5 pirate ships following us. Luogu sat on the side of the boat and shouted to Ace nonchalantly, you don't care. Don't worry about them. We just need someone to lead Blackbeard. Ace's voice came from the kitchen. By the way, you can deal with them. It's not a big problem. That's good. After Ace finished speaking, he poked his head out of the kitchen. Speaking of which, why did I cook and agree to rule? Didn't I listen to you and the ship has sailed? Luogu said, I would like to trouble you to cook a meal for us who are busy. Are you happy? You still have the nerve to say that you are a good person. When did I say I was a good person? Ace felt that he was unlucky because of this sentence. Ah, the pirates have revealed their true nature. It's so scary. Everyone, run away, Luogu said in a voice that didn't fluctuate at all, expressionless. Pirates' bounty. Don't run away. Author, The Desolate Little Purity. Chapter 156. Ace looked at the frying pan in his hand, feeling the urge to cover Rogu's face with it right now. I have never seen such a shameless pirate hunter. Of course, when it comes to pirate hunters, neither the Great Route nor the New World has much. And to be as bold as Luogu is really unique. If you keep driving like this, it will take a few days to reach the place you mentioned. While frying, stewing in the kitchen, Luogu walked in like an old man with his hands behind his back. With a scrutinizing gaze, he looked at this, glanced at that, and finally stood beside Ace and asked. 3 days. Ace looked at the fried fish steaks in the pot. At the speed of this ship, it will take at most 3 days. Smell good. Luogu swallowed his saliva as he looked at the fish steak in the pot. I didn't expect you to be quite good at cooking. When we first went to sea, we didn't find a chef, so everyone on the ship took turns cooking. When Ace said this, there was a sense of nostalgia in his expression. To be honest, that experience was really valuable to me. Luogu nodded. After joining Whitebeard, where are your crew members? Ace glanced at Luogu and said, none of your business. You cold pirate. He turned around and walked out with his hands behind his back. In 3 days, I will help you create an illusion. Ace didn't look back, nor did he respond. After a while, there was no movement behind him. Ace turned around, and Rogu had already gone out. After thinking for a moment, Ace frowned and said, don't underestimate this guy. Being in the company of pirate hunters, one has to be careful. After all, with respect to each other's status, it would be too much to say that a mouse and a cat are natural enemies. If at the beginning, Luogu resolutely disagreed, and then subdued them by force, he would not have to spend so much energy on guarding against anything like now. And now, despite Luogu's cooperation, there is always a feeling of sharp blades and sharp edges on the back. Horrible. After muttering something in his mouth, he suddenly found that there seemed to be something wrong with the boat under his feet, and the speed slowed down. What's going on, he wondered, while going to get the red wine. Pan-fried fish steaks in red wine will taste even better and special. However, it was empty. Where's the wine? The wine was in Luogu's hand, and Luogu stood on the side of the boat. The wine in his hand was gone, and most of it was spilled on his body. He stood there, holding a black pill in one hand, while looking at the approaching ships dimly. The pirate ships that came to chase them had changed from 5 to 12. Obviously, if Luogu and the others didn't leave Copper Pot Town, these guys would appear in front of him one by one in the next time. The effect is a bit beyond my imagination. Luogu yawned, and the boat under his feet stopped at this moment. Behind him were 12 pirate ships, various pirate flags, and all kinds of pirates. In just a blink of an eye, they were approaching and confronting each other. Luogu waved to them, hello everyone, I am a pirate hunter. Noro's Luogu is very happy to greet you, and I am very happy to meet you. While speaking, he hiccuped, his cheeks were flushed, like a drunk with a hangover. Noro Thrago. A voice came from a pirate ship, and a short pirate like a monkey was seen squatting on the side of the ship. He looked at him with his teeth, your doom has come. Blackbeard's pursuit has made you lose everything fighting spirit. Now, you are no longer the strongest pirate hunter who came out of the East China Sea in the past 20 years. You are just an alcoholic. Can you still carry a knife? Knife. Luogu looked at the black pill in his hand and grinned, is this what you are talking about? When the voice fell, the hand raised the knife and fell. Len Yi style. The air covered the void, and the crescent-like edge made the sea waves dance wildly for a moment. After a flash of light, the monkey-like pirate, together with the boat, was split into two. Kill the monkey fire and get a bounty of 1,350 million belly. Special bounty is distributed, please pay attention to check. The corner of Luogu's mouth twitched, and he tightened the knife in his hand. It seems that it can still be lifted. The sea was suddenly calm, and all the pirates fell silent. Luogu raised his knife at this time and swiped the faces of these pirate ship captains one by one, don't follow me anymore. After finishing speaking, he turned around and was about to jump off the side of the boat. Sail. With an order, the hunter's big ship restarted immediately. A piece of wreckage was floating on the sea, and of the 11 remaining pirate ships, there were suddenly only 3 left. Captain, that guy is terrible. On a pirate ship, a pirate whispered, they have all withdrawn, what should we do? He seems to be bluffing. The captain of the ship wore a pair of glasses and gently pushed them up. Otherwise, with his strength, why doesn't he keep us all here? The pirates under him were taken aback for a moment, and after thinking about it carefully, it made sense. Pirate hunter, how could you let the pirates go? Especially when there is a huge difference in strength. If you think about it with normal thinking, they will definitely turn all the pirates into bounties in their pockets. So we keep chasing. The subordinate asked again. The captain looked at the two ships around him and narrowed his eyes slightly. The Bauhinia pirates and the Violent Bear pirates? Maybe, we should meet them. Since we were not scared by the pirate hunters, that shows that they have the value of cooperation. As expected of the captain. After the subordinates listened, they all felt quite admirable. Someone immediately went to contact them, but after a while, the three ships came close to each other. The captain of the Bauhinia pirates is a woman in her 30s but not 40 years old, with cold eyes and a dark face. After looking at the bespectacled pirate captain, he said coldly, "Captain Hogrist of the Black Book Pirates, do you have any business with us?" "Welcome to the two captains," Lester said with a smile. "First of all, I am more curious about why the two captains did not leave together like the others." The leader of the Violent Bear pirates was a rough man with a body as strong as a bear. He roared and said loudly, "I have already chased him here. I can beat that guy into a little meat pie just by looking at him. Why should I leave a man on the sea who is not afraid of anything?" The captain of the Bauhinia pirates said coldly, "Then why didn't you rush up just now?" "Because it's obvious that I can't beat him. This is a man who can defeat everything and say it with confidence." Pirate's Bounty Don't Run Away. Author, The Desolate Little Purity. Chapter 157. The remaining two were a little speechless. If you can't beat this reason, it's really hard to argue. The captain of the Bauhinia pirates turned his head away, not wanting to take another look at this guy. Lester smiled and asked, "What about you, Miss Charlie of Bauhinia?" "Humph!" Charlie snorted coldly, and after a moment's hesitation, said, "I think that guy is a strong man on the outside but a strong man on the inside." "How did you come to this conclusion?" Lester asked. "He smelled very heavy of alcohol," Charlie said. "One of my crew members has a very good nose, and she easily caught the smell of alcohol on that guy. Moreover, when he was talking, he even smacked I had a wine burp. I don't know what kind of information you got before you came here. But the first information I got was that I was being chased by an irresistible pirate. The pirate hunter Narasrago still disappears all day long. Joe seems to have no intention of fighting anymore." At this point, she glanced at the two people and said, "You should know that once you lose your ambition to ride on the sea, no matter how strong you are, you will become weak." With keen observation skills, it seems that Miss Yali has all kinds of talents in her subordinates. Lester admired. Charlie looked at him coldly. "Well, we have finished explaining our reasons. What about you?" "It's simple, I think. If he's as strong as he appears to be, he won't let us out of his sight." As he said this, he looked at the pirates who were escaping in panic. They may never know what they gave up. "Pirate hunter, Norothrago." Charlie's eyes flashed. If any pirate can defeat him, he will instantly become famous on the Grand Line. "So, I invited the two of you over because there is one thing I want to discuss with you." Lester said frankly, "I think it will be difficult to defeat him based on my personal ability. Although he is no longer as powerful as he was at the beginning, he is still not to be underestimated, but I think if I can get the help of the two, the three of us will do this together, and the final result will definitely satisfy all of us." A flash of disapproval flashed in Charlie's eyes, but she nodded. "Then, what do you decide to do?" Lester glanced at the leader of the Storm Bear pirates and said, "I don't know what Mr. Storm Thunder thinks about it. Anyway, I can't defeat it alone." Bailey's voice was just like his name, and when he spoke, it was like thunder. "If you really have a way, I am willing to cooperate with you." "That's good." Lester nodded. "Actually, in terms of numbers, our side has an absolute advantage. Apart from him, there are only 2 women on Nurse Raghu's ship. With the strength of the 2 ability, it shouldn't be too difficult to subdue them. What about the hunter? Charlie glanced at Lester. Are you going to face him alone? That's the real way to seek death. Lester looked around, asked all the crew members to go out, and then lowered his voice and said, my plan is to use the crew members to trap Nurse Raghu and gather the 3 of us. With the power of lightning, he will deal with the 2 women with the speed of lightning. Then, gather the strength of everyone and attack together. His strength will not last long. Once his physical strength is worn away, then this person will naturally let us slaughter. No. Charlie stood up suddenly and said, I can't do it. Lester looked at her with a smile on his face and was not in a hurry. He just asked quietly, why? Can I hear a reasonable explanation? It is impossible for me to let my subordinates do such a fatal task. Charlie frowned. Facing Nurse Raghu head-on, even if the 3 of us go together, it is difficult to guarantee that we can escape unscathed. Even now the same goes for him in this state, so I can't take risks with my subordinates. Pay Papa. Lester applauded, it's admirable. If this is the case, we can only change the plan. Let the crew trap the 2 women, and we will use as many people as possible to deal with Nurse Raghu. Of course, the specific number of people to take depends on the combat capabilities of the 2 women. After Siali pondered for a moment, she nodded, for now, I agree with this plan. Baule nodded, I listen to you. Then, let's continue to pursue, Lester said, but stay as far away as possible to give them the illusion that we have given up. They will definitely be particularly vigilant tonight, but tomorrow, or the day after tomorrow, their vigilance will be gone. Greatly reduced. When the time comes, we will catch up and make his ship unable to drive, and then go up and kill him. After the general plan was drawn up, the 3 captains parted ways. Standing on the boat and watching, when the 2 returned to the cabin, the smile on Lester's face faded. A pirate must look like a pirate. Then he looked at the thundering ship and shook his head, I don't believe you are really as good as you show. On the other side, after Thunderbolt returned to the cabin, the silly and big image on his face instantly subsided. His expression was a little gloomy. The most disgusting thing is that these guys who think they are very smart do not cooperate or join forces. They just think that if they face the hunter alone, they will definitely be killed. That's why I found 2 people to face with you for danger. Once a crisis occurs, I will definitely use others as a shield. But, do you really think you, Mr. Bailey, are such a simple person? If you are really so reckless, I don't know how many people have died already. His expression was ferocious. You want me to be your shield? Let's see who will become whose shield in the end. I want the head of the pirate hunter Nurse Raghu. No one of you 2 can survive. Little ones, pass on the order, there will be a banquet tonight. The noise soared into the sky, and Siali of Bauhinia sat in the room with her brows furrowed. He has the same understanding as Baule, that is, Lester wants to find a backup. Today's situation is very clear, even if Logogu is really powerless, at least he can deliver a blow that none of the 3 of them can resist. So, who is going to resist? There are so many things to talk about, but the most important thing is just this knife in the head, who will stop it? Moreover, the most terrible thing is that whether it is Lester or Thunder, it is not as simple as imagined. If you continue like this with them, you will definitely be swallowed up and no bones and dregs will be left. And now it is too late to leave. It seems that there is only one way to break the deadlock. After struggling for a long time, she gritted her teeth and said, let Zayakoi come over and see me. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Pirate's Bounty Don't Run Away. Author, The Desolate Little Purity. Chapter 158. Storm. Crazy thunder struck something in the sky, torrential rain poured down, the waves of the sea surged up and down, and the big ship of the pirate hunter swayed in the storm. Luogu stood on the bow of the boat, his whole body was transparent. Rare weather. On the Grand Route, the weather is uncertain, and no one can tell what will happen in the next second. However, according to Luogu's experience, most of the time is sunny and sunny. Of course, it is also possible that the next second will be heavy snow, or hail all over the sky. But this kind of storm is actually very rare. A person jumped onto the bow from the wind and rain. It was Ace. I heard that my younger brother also likes to sit on the bow and watch the scenery, but obviously he won't like this kind of weather. I heard Luogu smiled a little weirdly. Everyone has their own pursuit, Ace said nonchalantly. Even brothers will inevitably take different paths sometimes. You probably won't like this weather, right? Luogu suddenly showed a ferocious smile. With such heavy rain, how powerful can the fire fist be? Ace was a little speechless. This was not the first time he had seen such an expression. The flame in his hand was ignited, and he still stood firm under the pouring rain. Unfortunately, my flame cannot be extinguished by this level of heavy rain. What a pity, Luogu nodded, his expression restrained a lot. When dealing with pirate hunters like you really can't be careless, Ace said. I can't wait to complete this mission quickly and return to my father's ship. Whitebeard. Luogu glanced at him thoughtfully. What kind of person is that? When you see him, you will understand, Ace smiled. He is a person who will never let you down. Well, I believe it. Just because of his bounty, he shouldn't be disappointed. Of course, he didn't say that. This kind of careful and wonderful cooperation with Ace is deliberately maintained by him. He has never concealed his ambition to catch him, and he hopes that he can be vigilant enough. But if even so, he is still caught by himself in the end, presumably, even Ace will have nothing to complain about. Of course, catching him is one thing. If, in front of him, he said a few words that were disrespectful to Whitebeard, it's hard to say whether these guys who are obsessed with Dad would immediately turn their backs. You still have to keep him to deal with Blackbeard. Now is not the time to fall out with him. There are 3 more ships following us. Ace suddenly changed the subject. It was you who left the mouth. I don't know if Blackbeard will come over for the incident in Copper Pot Town. But once the pirates gather, he will definitely not mind coming over to join in the fun. Luogu said, after all, this guy has great ambitions. Unfortunately, we left Tonghu Town, so we have to find someone to tell him. I hope they can fulfill their mission well. Who knows? Luogu looked back, but suddenly frowned. We have guests. In this heavy rain, who will come to visit? Without saying a word, Ace rushed into the kitchen at a ghostly speed. He is invisible now. Luogu could only walk to the left side of the ship by himself. Why was it the left side of the ship? Because there was a hook hanging on it. Standing on the edge of the hook and looking down, I saw a drenched girl climbing up a rope with determination on her face. When she found Luogu, she seemed to be frightened. She let go of her hand, and almost fell into the sea, but she quickly grabbed the rope tightly and survived. But before he could breathe a sigh of relief, he looked up again and saw Luogu reaching out and picking off the hook from the side of the ship. Bye-bye. Luogu smiled at her, then let go. The girl's eyes were filled with disbelief, and she fell into the sea with a plop. They clapped their hands. Luogu was very inhuman, and he didn't feel any guilt at all. The 4 lines of writing on the girl's body indicate that this guy is a pirate. Wanting to get on the boat secretly indicates that the plot is wrong. It was Luogu's kindness not to cut it in half with a knife and feed it to the fish. He turned around and planned to go back to the cabin, but suddenly he frowned. When he turned around, he saw the girl's figure rolling in the air and landing on the deck with a clatter. You're such a bad person. Before he finished speaking, his feet slipped, and he sat on the deck with a plop. Luogu was a little confused, and the girl sitting on the ground was also a little confused. You two looked at me, and I looked at you. Finally, Luogu wondered, are you here to be funny? That's not true. The girl got up from the ground, rubbing her butt and holding back tears as she said, the captain asked me to give you a message. Hand in the gun and not kill, Luogu asked. Ah, the girl was confused again. What do you mean? Is this sentence difficult to understand? No, it's just that coming from your mouth is a bit unexpected. The girl's mind was a little overwhelmed for a while. So, which pirate family are you from? Luogu wondered. He seemed to have no malicious intent. Well, it was mainly because he had no offensive power. Moreover, there seems to be some lack of personality, and his mind is a little white. If he just uses such a little girl as the vanguard, he must wonder whether the captain of this pirate group has a grudge against this girl. The little girl patted her chest, her face full of pride. I am Zyakui of the Bauhinia Pirates. And then Zyakui scratched her head, then pointed at Luogu, evil pirate hunter, we will not give in. So Luogu thought it was a bit funny. If this girl wasn't sick, then she was really stupid. Your smell tells me that you are laughing at me. Zyakui suddenly raised her eyebrows and showed a fierce expression, very unhappy. You haven't said what your captain asked you to tell me. Oh, Zyakui immediately woke up from a dream and said, the captain said that they plan to deal with you, but our Bauhinia pirates don't plan to get involved. So, when it's time to attack, we will find a way to retreat. I hope you don't stop us. Luogu suddenly realized, so that's it, well, I don't know if you can understand it. I want to know, why should I not let you go? Do you have any decent reward? Zyakui was stunned and murmured, telling you this news is my reward. Well, I seem to have told you in advance. What should I do? Who to ask? Luogu was dumbfounded. Is this girl really okay? Pirate's bounty, don't run away. Author, The Desolate Little Purity. Chapter 159. Zyakui's expression became very distressed. She didn't know when the storm stopped, but her bitter face was still there. Looking at it, Luogu couldn't help but shook his head helplessly. Well, you go and talk to your captain. I don't think it's difficult to let you go. As long as you are willing, do something for me. What's the matter? Zyakui's eyes showed a glimmer of light, and then as if she remembered something, she immediately shook her head, clasped her hands in front of her, and stepped back. No, we girls from Bauhinia cannot be harmed. Bullied by others. As pirates, it's good if you don't bully others. Luogu's face turned black. Do all women have this sense of crisis? It's true when you think about it carefully. Isn't it because many men can't control their belts that women have such a sense of crisis? Using a body organ to replace the brain's thinking is really impossible. He sighed helplessly. Whether you believe it or not, it's a little different from what you think. In addition, this is the only chance I give you. If you want, you'd better take my words carefully, otherwise. Having said that, he suddenly smiled. If you think about it carefully, if there is no other way, it is impossible for you to talk to the hunter. It means that your current situation is not good. In fact, your situation is not difficult to guess. Attacking me together means the alliance of the three companies was established. The alliance is a good way to say that it is to cooperate with each other. However, in this cooperation, you must not trust the so-called partners. You are on guard against each other, but you also monitor each other. Your captain probably wants to give up. But now it's hard to get off, and it's a dilemma. What are you talking about? Zyakui's eyes turned the coils of mosquito coils, and she couldn't understand at all. It feels like it's going around, as if it's talking about one thing, but it seems like it's talking about many things. Luogu stayed in place for a moment, suddenly feeling a little downcast. The guys he had been dealing with all this time were all shrewd bastards, and suddenly there was such an idiot-like girl, and he didn't know how to communicate with them. With a sigh, he said, "Then, you just need to tell you captains, if you want to live, listen to me. I will let you leave easily, well, when you attack me. Of course, as for after you leave, whether you will abide by the agreement or not, let your captain judge for himself. Now, you go back and explain what I said, and then come back, and I will tell you what I asked you to do in the end." Zyakui carefully remembered all these contents in her mind. At Luogu's request, she repeated it several times to make sure that every word was correct, and then she was satisfied and let her go. "I just feel, why is the scene so similar to when I was a child? Adults, let me tell the elders." After Zyakui left, Ace came out of the kitchen. "What a funny girl. Like it? Take it away." Luogu had a half smile. "Forget it, I won't think about this kind of thing until I have fulfilled my dream," Ace said. "In the final analysis, without a stable future, doing that kind of thing rashly is not good for yourself or others. Responsible." He seemed to have thought of something, with a hint of unhappiness on his face. Luogu thought for a while, then smiled lightly. "This is your problem." Ace curled his lips. "So, you found another mouth." "There is a difference between uncertainty and certainty after all." Luogu smiled. "Since they are not going to cause trouble for me, why not make use of it as much as possible?" "Use? Haven't you been using them all the time? Otherwise, they could continue to follow behind so leisurely." Iskin looked at the sea. There seemed to be nothing on the sea, but in fact if you looked carefully, you could still find the shadows of the 3 ships. "The child just now, she seems a little special." Ace suddenly changed the subject. Luogu shook his head indifferently. "It has nothing to do with me. Charlie is waiting." But she didn't make her wait too long. When the storm was over, the water-stained Zyakui came out from under the deck. "How is it?" Seeing her, Xiaoli had a trace of concern in her eyes. "Is there anything wrong with you?" Zyakui shook her head. "No, it's just a little fierce and a little bad. She actually threw the rope I used for climbing into the sea." Xiaoli frowned. "Then what happened after that?" "Then I jumped on it." Zyakui was very proud. "I think he must have been surprised at that time. Although I fell down after I went up and my butt is hurting now, it must have shocked him." Charlie had no choice but to nod. "Then what?" "Then." Zyakui thought carefully. "By the way, he asked me to send you a message." Xiaoli waited earnestly, and Zyakui was also waiting. "Say it." Xiaoli was a little anxious. "Didn't you just say something, rather?" "Oh, I thought you wanted to say that the gun will be surrendered without killing." Zyakui muttered, and then repeated what Luogu told her in detail. There were several stutterings in the middle, but in the end, Luogu's words were conveyed word for word. You can see Luogu's foresight in this aspect. If she hadn't been asked to memorize it by rote, this girl would have definitely forgotten the key points. Xiaoli's face became quite ugly. Does he want to take advantage of us? This cunning pirate hunter. Maybe I really should join forces with them. Zyakui thinks it's right to listen to him. Zyakui spoke suddenly. Charlie was stunned. Why? Zyakui thought for a while and said, he doesn't smell of alcohol anymore, and it's scary. She didn't express it clearly, but this simple sentence was enough. Those who have been able to drift on the sea so far are either lucky, powerful, or shrewd. Xiaoli's luck is definitely not that good, and her strength can only be regarded as mediocre. But smart enough. So, after listening to these words, I immediately understood, did he do it on purpose that day? He doesn't just have the power of one blow at all. Is there another purpose for keeping us? Thinking of this, she couldn't help but sweat all over her body. Think carefully. If it wasn't for this time because you didn't want to continue with the other two and worried that you would be swallowed by them, she would not force her to find another way. so she knew about it. If you are confused, you may end up falling into a more sinister trap. 7 Pirates Bounty Don't Run Away. Author, The Desolate Little Purity. Chapter 160. After sorting out this idea, there is nothing left to say. Do as Luogu said, what else can you do? In the final analysis, Xiao Kui's biggest gain from this trip is that Luogu is in good condition and is not almost decadent as he is drinking to drown his sorrows in the legendary way. The big trap this guy is brewing is certainly not aimed at little pirates like them. They were considered stupid fish that bumped into them in their ignorance, that's all. Therefore, if you want to survive, the most important thing is to be obedient. Of course, it was not that Charlie had not thought about sharing this information with the other 2 people and cancelling the plan directly so that everyone could go back alive. After all, the distance between the 2 sides is relatively far at this time, and it is very possible to run away like this. But, would those 2 people believe such a thing? Totally impossible. Don't think those 2 people didn't believe it and still insisted, and she couldn't leave, and finally angered Luogu, leading to the annihilation of the whole army. That's the worst possible outcome. Shaking her head, Xiaoli said to Xiao Kui, tell him, we will be obedient. Xiaokui nodded, yes, that's how it should be. He is like a tiger in the mountains and a sea king in the deep sea. He cannot resist. If he doesn't obey, he can only be eaten. Xiaoli looked at her, rubbed her head lightly and said, be careful all the way, don't be found when you come back. Xiaokui understands. Opened the deck and drilled in. The ship has been specially modified and has a special diving door. Xiaokui's particularity allows her to go through the deep sea and reach many places, making her the best messenger and scout. Of course, it would be even better if she could be a little smarter. On the other side, seeing that the weather had cleared up, Luogu led his people to continue practicing. Cultivation is like sailing against the current. If you don't advance, you will retreat. If you relax for a day, you will be surpassed by your opponent. As soon as he swung the dumbbells, Makita was still standing on top of them. Mishita's shape is a bit strange. She is standing on a dumbbell with one leg. However, her abilities are fully activated and all her power is concentrated on one point, adding pressure to Luogu. At the same time, in order to resist Luogu's lifting force, she also used all the strength. At this moment, the sweat on his forehead made him unable to utter a word. Not far away, Dashki was also waving the barbell in his hand. While sweating like rain, he did not forget to say, the captain is right. Ace sat at the door of the kitchen with a small stool and looked at these people. He shook his head for a while. Pirate hunter Luogu, there are rumors outside that you and 2 beauties live a drunken life on the boat every day. Life. But I didn't expect that the truth would be like this. Luogu curled his lips, not even bothering to respond to this statement. Daisuke was very puzzled, why are you so drunk? Ace pursed his lips, and finally found that he couldn't explain it. Doesn't it make him seem like a pervert? At this moment, Xiaokui climbed up from the side of the boat like a water ghost. Seeing these people present, he was stunned. There are a lot of people. The people present were not at all surprised by her arrival. When she came over in the rain, Dashiki and Makita were busy adjusting the sails, so they had already seen her. How to say? Luogu didn't say a word of nonsense, and asked directly. Our captain said, I will be obedient. Xiaokui got on the deck and breathed a sigh of relief after making sure her feet were not slippery. Then she clapped her chest and answered confidently. Rogu and Ace looked at each other, will she be obedient? Was she sold by their captain? After all, it was Luogu who knew a little bit about this girl, thought it over carefully and asked, did your captain say that you will be obedient? It's us. Not you. Xiaokui corrected. The corner of Ace's mouth twitched, can it work? How do you feel that these people are not reliable at all? Rogu was also a little speechless for a while, handed the dumbbell to his left hand, and asked Ace to bring him a pen and paper. Ace reluctantly came over to wait on Luogu, and saw that Luogu had written a sentence on the paper: "After leaving here, no matter who asks about our whereabouts, we can tell them. This information may allow you to make a small fortune. Also, please burn it after reading it." After asking Ace to fold the paper, he stuffed it into a small waterproof bag and handed it to Zayakui. "Let your captain see it in person. Be careful, put it in your mouth and don't bite it." Okay, Zayakui took it quickly, looked at the little thing, hesitated for a moment, and said, "Is it really not edible?" "Of course not." Oh, seemingly disappointed, the girl stuffed it into her mouth, then turned around and jumped into the sea. Okay, Luogu watched her disappear. The mouth that finally came to the door has already made preparations. "Next, I will wait for the island you mentioned." Soon Ace stretched his arms and said, "Do you think he will come?" This him, of course, can only be Blackbeard. Luogu was a little silent. Will he come? He didn't know this issue either. In the final analysis, it was still 3 parts manpower and 7 parts destiny. Not all plans in this world are successful. It is the heart that makes calculations, and it is people who plan things. Whether things can be accomplished in the end depends on destiny. It's a pity. If only I had Zhujiang's ability to predict things like a god, it would be great. He looked at the sky. It seems to be raining again? For the rest of the day and night, although the weather was erratic, the boat was peaceful. However, on the third day, as dawn was about to break, the sound of a cannon broke the tranquility of the morning. The attack has begun. The 3 pirate groups and 3 ships endured for 2 days, thinking that Rogu and the others would relax their vigilance, and decided to launch a general attack before the dawn. This time, the preparations were sufficient, and the moment the gunfire sounded, a hole broke through Luogu's big ship. Fortunately, the location is relatively high, so although seawater infiltration is still unavoidable, the problem is not that big. Immediately after that was the sound of killing, and a large group of pirates rushed onto the deck. Lester, Thunderbolt, and Xiaoli looked at each other and rushed to the second deck together. They all know where Luogu lives. Thunderbolt kicked the hatch and was about to rush in when he saw Luogu sitting in the corridor, smiling at them. "Hello, welcome." Lester's expression changed, and he turned around and left without saying a word. But at this moment, a fist that ignited fire hit him directly in the face and blasted him into the cabin. Ace stood at the door of the cabin and said to Charlie, "Is it you? Are you still leaving? Leave right away." When Charlie saw Ace, she was almost scared to pee. The big pirate of the New World joins hands with Luogu. I dare not even think about this idea, just appearing in my mind. I feel that I may be silenced at any time. "Come on, let's go, don't talk nonsense." Ace made a SHH gesture. Charlie glanced at it, closed his eyes and rushed out. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Pirate's Bounty, Don't Run Away. Author, The Desolate Little Purity. Chapter 163. Fast updates, free to read. When Luogu stood in front of Albina, only 10 minutes had passed. Except Makita, who was in mid-air, the others were still on their way. Dashiki was barely able to keep up with Luogu's footsteps at the beginning, but was quickly thrown away. In contrast, Mishida's flying speed in mid-air was not slow, which made Luogu quite happy. What's going on inside now? Rogu asked Makita above his head. She flies high, sees far, and can see many things at a glance. In view of this, Luogu decided to equip her with a telescope in the future. The observation tower on the ship can only be regarded as weak compared to Mishida. It's confusing. Mishida fell from mid-air and stood next to Luogu. The rebels have already invaded, and fighting is happening in the streets and alleys. From the current point of view, Albina soldiers should be suppressed. Status. But if we want to fully understand the situation, we have to take another look. Luogu shook his head. It's not necessary. We are not here to stop the war. From entering the Great Route, or after seeing Makita, Rogu's goal has always been clear, and that is crocodile. You may have accomplished some of your own goals in the process, but the ultimate goal remains the same. Besides, the princess will be here soon. This is her job. What about us? Let's go somewhere. Rogu smiled. Albina Royal Palace. At this moment, this place is already a mess. There were people everywhere. A middle-aged man dressed luxuriously, his arms were pierced by iron nails, and he was nailed to the wall. Blood and anger were all over his face, but he couldn't say a word. Crocodile stood there with his back to them, looking down at everything that happened in Albina. When he turned around, his face was gloomy, but it was like the solace of his shoes. Didn't come. Not coming. So far, Luogu has not arrived yet. Robin, who was standing against the wall, couldn't help but twitch the corner of his mouth, which instantly attracted Crocodile's attention. He glanced at Robin coldly. Forget it, don't wait. Oh, Robin said, I really can't wait any longer. There are more important things now. Crocodile closed his eyes. When he opened them again, all the emotions in his eyes had been restrained. Plan in advance, many things are not ready. Having said this, he glanced in the direction of the Albina Bell Tower with some regret, and then walked towards the middle-aged man who was nailed to the wall. Originally, you might have been rescued. Crocodile took a puff of cigarette and blew the smoke into the other person's face. But those stupid pirate hunters don't have enough courage. Now, take us to the hiding place, the place where history is written. Otherwise, not only you and your country, but your daughter will definitely not survive today. Robin stood beside him and looked at the middle-aged man and smiled. The middle-aged man closed his eyes. Is that the end? I understand, the text of history, I will take you there. When he opened his eyes again, his eyes were calm, but his consciousness was hidden. Robin freed him from the wall, supported him, and the three of them went around from Wang Gong's side and went straight to the royal cemetery. After a while, they had arrived. The middle-aged man opened the secret door, and Crocodile rushed in first, but Robin looked around solemnly, but did not find the figure. You really didn't come. Robin sighed and looked down at the dark entrance, his eyes shining again. Take the middle-aged people and step into it. Crocodile did not go far. Who knows if there will be any traps in the royal cemetery? Seeing that the goal is about to be achieved, if for this kind of thing, the result falls short, it will definitely not be worth the loss. Following the middle-aged man's instructions, he opened the secret doors along the way and finally came to a huge space. It is a corridor-shaped space with stone pillars on both sides. Directly in front of it is a square stone with strange characters arranged neatly. Goo ha ha ha. Crocodile looked at this piece of historical text and laughed wildly. Historical text, this is the historical text, I finally got it, ha ha ha, is all Sunday. Understood. Robin found a place to put the middle-aged man down, let him sit on the ground, and then came to the historical text. What's written on it? Well, Kahira conquered Alabasta, this was the year 239 of the Hanian calendar. In 260, Peter was ruled by Dama due to his dynasty. In 306, Elmer completed the construction of the great cathedral. Robin was watching and talking, but Crocodile's expression was getting impatient and he roared, "Shut up, what I want to hear is not the history of Alabasta, what I want to hear is Pluto. Legendary, is it the most evil battleship in history?" A voice suddenly came from behind, and Crocodile turned around suddenly, and saw a young man walking slowly with a knife on his shoulder. As he walked, he smiled, and said, it seems that there is no record of what you are talking about in this historical text. Norothrago. Crocodile recognized Rogu's identity in an instant, not only because he had seen Rogu's photo before, but more importantly, Makita was floating behind him like a ghost. He raised his eyebrows slightly. It seems that my dog is well taken care of by you. Makita was still afraid when she saw Crocodile, but after hearing this, her face turned dark. He didn't dare to refute, but he lowered his head, looked at his captain, and then silently encouraged Luogu in his heart, "Come on, captain, kill this middle-aged greasy uncle." Luogu smiled, turned to look at the middle-aged man, and said with a smile, "Waiwei and Akaram will be here soon, and they will calm down the chaos outside. However, they don't know who can destroy Albanus Zayden is hidden in the bell tower. As a time traveler, the biggest advantage is that you can use this identity to pretend to be aggressive." Luogu is very familiar with this aspect. Unexpectedly, as soon as these words were spoken, Robin was stunned for a moment, and then said, "What you are talking about is just a plan. Because that thing is so important, only transporting it on the eve of the plan can ensure the eventuality, but this time the plan suddenly advanced, and I was not prepared for this. Moreover, the only people who know about this matter are me and Crocodile." "Why do you know? And, how do you know that thing will be hidden?" "I don't even know about this in the bell tower." After finishing speaking, he glanced at Crocodile's face and said, "Besides, you seem to be right friends who read books, you can search for Blue and you will find the site immediately." Pirate's Bounty Don't Run Away. Author, The Desolate Little Purity. Chapter 165. The one who descended from the sky was Makita, so the one who came across was naturally Dashiki. This girl obviously had a preliminary understanding of how to use speed. She sprinted suddenly and hit her head hard, instantly making Lafitte lose consciousness. To be honest, Lafitte felt a little wronged. This is a despicable sneak attack. If he were to face these two people head-on, he might not lose so easily. The battle on the island is still continuing. After the three people on Luogu's side met, they controlled the Blackbeard's men. Everyone has their chains wrapped around them, and they're sitting on deck, dejected. Well, there's one who can't even do it, and he hasn't regained consciousness yet. Considering Lafitte's uniqueness, Luogu also covered him with a black hood. Mainly because this guy has another unique skill, hypnosis. This thing should not belong to the category of devil fruit ability, and how to activate and use it, Luogu is not clear. Just in case, I put a hood on it so that I don't get caught accidentally. Makita put the table back out, put up the sun umbrella, and when it was time to prepare wine for Rogu, Rogu shook his head and chose a drink. Dashki went to the lower prison for a tour, and when he came back, his face was not very happy. These guys destroyed the hull of the ship. It won't be a big problem for short-term navigation, but if it lasts for a long time, the water seepage will definitely not be dealt with. Luogu glanced at the girl, pointed to the island and said, "The matter here is not over yet, you have already considered how to leave." "I trust the captain." Dashiki fully demonstrated the psychological quality of a qualified crew member. Luogu shook his head helplessly, and suddenly remembered those two pirates. Speaking of which, hiding them in the trees should not be a big problem normally, but with the burning method of Ace, the pyromaniac, after a while, the whole island will be burned to nothing. Those two things are not only cooked in the tree, right? He frowned. Now that Blackbeard is here, Lester is obviously useless. But he was still looking forward to the thundering devil fruit. Mishita said at this time, "Captain, is it really okay to continue like this?" "Huh?" Luogu gave her a strange look. "What new discovery do you have?" "I think if the pirate burned it like this, we might not have the wood to repair the ship by then." Mishita and Dusky basically had the same idea. They were thinking about how to proceed after the end, rather than how to fight the next battle. The corners of Luogu's mouth not only twitched, but he sighed helplessly and said, "You guys, don't worry, there will be pirates who will send us wood. If you don't like this ship, you can just change it to another ship." The two looked at Luogu together. What does this mean? Mouth, mouth. Luogu pointed to his own mouth and said, "This time I came here to lure Blackbeard into the urn. There are two groups of mouths. One group is the subordinates of the two pirates. They are passive mouths. Everything depends on fate. And the other group, but it is the group of Bauhinia pirates. They are the ones who take the initiative, so, what will happen? The two of you looked at me, I looked at you, and finally De Psyche suddenly had a flash of inspiration. They will pass on the news that we have been stranded here." "Yeah, I was smart once," Luogu said with a smile, "then, was beaten up by two pirate ships and ran aground. Thieves' hunter. And this big name, do you know what the consequences of this will be?" De Psyche seemed to have turned on some kind of thinking switch. His eyes flickered. "There will be many pirates rushing over. Unfortunately, they are all small shrimps." Luogu sighed. The reason why he felt such emotion was mainly because those who could covet his name and gain prestige were naturally not very powerful people. And those truly formidable characters may not necessarily be blinded by their interests, and finally rush to die. Why, Makita still couldn't understand, even if they obeyed the captain's order and passed on the news, but in that case, wouldn't the captain be in the state they said they were? Otherwise, there is no reason why they can go back intact. It must be because they knew the captain was fine, so they escaped early. Luogu glanced at Makita with hopeless eyes. "Although I know you are not very smart, but it should be my fault for being so stupid. I am too spoiled for you. The brain, if you don't use it usually, it may be difficult to use it in the future." "Captain, what do you mean?" Mishita's face turned a little red, and she really felt a little guilty after being said like this. "What is the most shameful thing for a pirate?" Luogu smiled. "It is not death, nor failure, but loss of courage. Escaping is the most cowardly choice, and no pirate group will follow from there saying the word escape from your mouth. If you are facing a large-scale naval encirclement and suppression, it is no problem to say so, and it will even be regarded as an honor. After all, being able to survive from the hands of the Navy is itself a manifestation of ability. But, because of the three-person pirate hunter team, they ran away. If you say this, where do you let them put their faces? Is there still a place for them in this sea? Of course, this is only one aspect. The other aspect." Luogu smiled and said, "A pirate who can even seek help from a pirate hunter in a desperate situation, this captain must be a smart person. Most smart people have the virtues of adult beauty." Makita looked at Dashiki, and Dashiki seemed a little confused. Both of them can understand the previous paragraph, but the latter paragraph, what do you mean? Luogu shook his head, pointed in a direction and said, "I hid those two pirates in the tree. Go over and have a look. If you have a chance, you can rescue them. If you don't have a chance, forget it. Don't get caught up in the fight." The two nodded, turned, and left. Luogu was sitting here, drinking a drink while watching the battle on the island. Up to now, the winner has still not been decided, which made him a little anxious, but he forcibly suppressed his impatience. All the layout and planning have been completed, and now the results are in front of him. He can afford to wait for a battle. Also, the longer I play, the better the result will be for me. A smile was drawn on the corner of Luogu's mouth, and he drank the juice in the glass in one gulp.